Does this windscreen come down? Oh, that's down. Okay. We can't remove this bit. So how'd you start this thing? Oh, really? Is it battery powered? How does that work then? I thought you liked my nipples. Ooh.
It appears that Roy has regressed. The golf cart has turned him into a 6-year-old. Last time we were here, we had Darren's chariot to play with.
Anybody for tipping?
This time we are making do with the buggy, but we're not complaining.
We know there's quite a few more foxes back on here. That's quite cool, isn't it? And I like that. After seeing Jim shooting a couple of weeks ago, we pretty much know that they're quite safe on here. So we're going to be getting out and seeing what we can do. A couple of bits that we're trialling out tonight. The guys over at Best Fox Call sent us this through, and it's an Isotech model GC500. And he said he's downloaded a lot of different calls on there. Jim's going to be on the HMR, the Browning here, and he's going to take anything that comes in very close because it'll look big in the scope, and hopefully the crosshairs wouldn't wander too far off it. And then anything that's a little bit further off, then wish you 243. Sorry, mate. Go on, run him over. He needs it from last week.
So, tooled up, we leave the car park and head off to the fairways. The foxes are a problem because they poo on the greens, and that's just not cricket. We tee off with the Best Fox Call, but not a sausage. Roy moves to the mouth call. Back to the electronic. Back to mouth. Even though Jim has seen foxes earlier today, it has the hallmarks of being a dry night. Then we have a peculiar fox reaction. Roy lights one up, so removes himself from the buggy and lands in the rough. But it's too rough and the bipod isn't high enough. Roy is doing so much fiddling and rearranging, he's not calling. But still the fox stays in play. Finally, it all comes together, and Roy head shoots the animal.
Well, we got out to get set up on the bipod. We had some very long grass, so I couldn't see it. So I came to the tree to try and look down in the valley, and for some reason the fox was running towards us. So we haven't done any squeaking, absolutely nothing at all. And the fox was charging in. Personally, I think it has something to do with David's eau de ferret cologne that he puts on when he comes out with us. And as I say, the fox started charging in. It then went further up the bank, but we had absolutely no backstop then, so we couldn't take a shot. Tried a couple of mouse squeaks with him, and he just couldn't figure it out. He just wasn't happy, and I thought he was going to bolt. Then he started walking all the way back down to the bottom again, and then stopped in a position to give us a backstop. But yeah, that's the problem. So I'd completely gone apart from Jim, so there was no communication between myself and Jim, so he didn't know when to put the lamp on it. David didn't know what was going on, so I'm amazed we actually accounted for that one. Hopefully we'll regroup and make a quicker job of the next one.
We are really struggling tonight. En route to the 19th, we spot some eyes in the hedge. Roy perseveres for a good 10 minutes. Finally, our fox shows itself. Roy's restraint has paid off.
That really did highlight why you've got to be so careful, and you don't just shoot at eyes, and you always make sure you identify a target and also make sure that you've got a backstop, because unfortunately if we'd taken the shot there, even if we were quite happy about the backstop, then somebody's little Pussy Williams wouldn't have been going home tonight. So luckily it came out and showed itself, and we found out it was a potty cat.
To prove that he can actually shoot, Jim gets a rabbit before we turn in with a score well below par. The foxes have not done what they're supposed to. Tiddles lives to fight another day. Probably best buy a pair of shades.